Arguably one of the most iconic weapons in the history of Destiny 2 is back with Into the Light, and so it's time to go through it, break it down, and tell you why you need the reprised, reissued, returning Brave Hammerhead. This Void adaptive frame heavy machine gun from the Black Armory era of Destiny 2 was sunset with Beyond Light. It was a fan favourite prior to it, and most veterans have been aching to get their sweaty little mitts back on it. Fortunately, Bungie have absolutely cooked with this one, and to be honest, it has multiple God Rolls worth chasing. I know that for myself, I will hands down be using this through my first solo playthrough of the new Legendary campaign in the final shape, so let's find out why. First off, it does have one contender that is going to have you prize your sweaty little mitts from, and that is the Commemoration Heavy Machine Gun from the Deepstone Crypt Raid. Now, that one is craftable and so can also come with enhanced perks, but most players that I know of will probably only have gone with only one of maybe two rolls, and that is Reconstruction in the third column and Killing Tally in the final column. Now, this is just absolutely insane for ad clear. You're going to be getting over 140 rounds in the magazine once Reconstruction does its thing, and then with Killing Tally, this perk is absolutely godly for high level end game activities. Most players do use this for solo content in terms of Legend and Master Lost sectors, as well as, like I said, these legendary campaigns from the Witch Queen, Lightfall, and obviously with the final shape. Now, Killing Tally is absolutely a great perk because it has a damage boost which stacks. It goes from 10%, 20%, 30% at a 3-time stack, and that buff is always going to be active until you store or reload the weapon, and it's what makes it so good, especially with Commemoration, and it's what is going to be so good on the Hammerhead. Now, obviously, the Hammerhead and Commemoration are in the same archetype. They're both adaptive frame machine guns, so they're both going to dish out that same base level of damage for critical hits and body shots. So what is the point and why do you need a Hammerhead? Well, the main thing that stands out with the Hammerhead, and obviously why it has that Bungie secret sauce and why everybody loved it so much, and to be fair, why it is just so stupidly effective at high level ad clear and what you basically want to use a heavy machine gun for, is because of the aim assist. It's just absolutely stacked up high. It's at 98 on the base version of the Brave Hammerhead, and it is really what makes it feel so much better than the Commemoration. Now, I remember when I got my hands on the Commemoration, it didn't have that sticky feel, and the Hammerhead is going to bring it, and it really does put the Commemoration back in the vault, if not in the discard pile, because perk pool on this thing is absolutely stacked. Now, in the first two columns, I'd maybe look at Fluted Barrel just to get a stability and a handling bump, and maybe even Corkscrew Rifling, which is going to give you that +5 to that stability, range and handling, which is absolutely something that can't be sniffed at. Or if you just want to max out that range for damage fall off, then Hammerforged Rifling potentially the way to go. But the recoil direction on this thing is already at 75, which is pretty much vertical. It's got a lot of things going for it in terms of its handling and its feel already, and I'd probably go for maybe ricochet rounds or even high caliber rounds in the second column. Or if you want to boost that magazine size, extended mag potentially is the way to go, and there's a few reasons why you may want to get extended mag over something that's going to maybe bump your range up with like ricochet or high caliber rounds, and it's just because of the flat out double stacking damage perks that you've essentially got in the final two columns. Now, the main one that everyone's going to jump for and go for straight out of the gate is the fact that this thing can roll with Rampage in the third column. Now, we don't see Rampage there in the third column very often, and if we do, we generally don't have a damage boosting perk in that fourth column. But with these Brave Arsenal weapons, Bungie have absolutely stacked these to the max, and the Hammerhead is literally no different, because you've essentially got 5 different damage boosting perks straight out of the gate in the final column, as well as one that's basically gonna make this thing shoot like a crazy thing. So Rampage is one of the main ones that you're gonna want to go for. A 3-time stack, obviously you're gonna need to keep getting them kills to get that damage boost going, and that's gonna give you a 33% damage boost. Now, as we've already mentioned, Killing Tally, I think that is basically going to be the main thing that you're going to want to pair with Rampage. Killing Tally is going to give you that 30% damage boost, also a 3-time stack. So if you're using this for high-end ad clear, especially wanting to deal with some of the yellow bars and tankier enemies, especially some champions, then a 3-time stack of Rampage and a 3-time stack of Killing Tally is going to give you essentially way over a 70% damage boost because of how it adds up multiplicatively. So it doesn't just add 30% and add 30%, it takes the 30% from Rampage and then it adds the 30% on top of that 30% of Rampage. So essentially you're getting a higher damage boost than just 30 plus 30. Now that is really probably going to be one of the standout picks, and that unfortunately isn't the curated version that you will get from the R-Site quest. The curated version is 4th times the charm with Killing Tally. Now, not a bad one to be fair, but 4th times the charm does require you to hit precision shots, and with machine guns and as you're spraying and playing, you're generally probably going to waste more ammo than it's worth, so I don't think the curated version with that 4th times the charm is the way to go. But if you are using it to deal damage to chunkier enemies or bigger targets with bigger crit spots, then building up a 3-time stack of Killing Tally is going to be super easy on some trash ads, and 4th times the charm is going to essentially refund ammo to the magazine, and you're going to be able to use that maximum 30% damage boost to dish out a ton of damage with the Hammerhead. However, one of the main perks that I think you may want to look out for on the Hammerhead is Destabilising rounds. Now this is another one that we are getting in the 3rd column, and like I said before, this is a perk that is fairly new, and to be fair, I don't think it's in too many 3rd columns on a lot of weapons, and if it is, it's not paired with damage boosting perks so much in that final column, and it's what makes this one stand out, to be fair. Obviously, Destabilising rounds is going to spread volatile to enemies within a 6.5 meter radius on final blows with this weapon, and that's just going to allow you for excellent ad clear, and the volatile explosions do actually take on the damage profile of the weapon. So if you do have a damage boosting perk in that final column like Killing Tally or maybe even Target Lock or the new Desperate Measures, then potentially you are going to increase the volatile explosion damage of the volatile enemies basically that are damaged by Destabilising rounds. Now that is also going to be excellent for ad clear, maybe not as technically as effective as Rampage and Killing Tally for example, but it's got that subclass synergy potentially with Void builds, and even with the new Prismatic subclass coming in the final shape, I think maybe that's going to be something that I'm going to look out for as well. Like I said, this just has tons and tons of God rolls, and it doesn't stop there, to be honest with you. So I mean, we might as well go through the final column in terms of what we've got for damage boosting perks. Like we say, we've just got Desperate Measures. Now this is a newer damage boosting perk, and I think it's one that's relatively slept on, to be honest. Weapon kills grant a 10% increased damage for 7 seconds, but then on getting a grenade or melee kill, you're going to get that boosted up to 20%, and that's still for 7 seconds, and then scoring another grenade or melee kill can increase this up to 30%. So that's a 30% damage boost for essentially a weapon kill and then maybe some grenade final blows. Now most popular grenades in the game are like area effect grenades, and you're going to be stacking maybe 2 or 3 kills with 1 grenade anyway. So Desperate Measures probably getting a bit of the rough end of the stick at the minute, but one that potentially can do really well with the Hammerhead, especially with some of the perks in that 3rd column. And once you get that 30% rolling, this can be refreshed on kills, whether that's with your grenade, your melee, or kills from the weapon. So it's giving you tons of ways to keep that damage boost going. Obviously it doesn't really have that infinite synergy that Killing Tally does, but I think it is definitely a solid option. We've also got Target Lock as well in that 4th column. Now this one can potentially be insane, although machine guns are something that you generally use for DPS phases, but like I say, if you wanted to use it to take out higher health enemies, yellow bars, champions, mini bosses, then you're really going to be wanting to stack up Target Lock to get them higher 3, 4 or 5 times stacks. Now the 4 times stack is the maximum that you can get on a base size of the magazine, so you really need to boost that magazine size, and that's something that you can go with in the 3rd column. And to get that boosted damage, you're going to need that 5 times stack, and you need to essentially use 110% of the magazine to get that 5 times stack, and that is going to give you a full 40% damage boost Now as long as you don't miss a shot, then target lock is going to do its thing, and like I say, target lock, you're going to stay on target, it's going to do that 40% boosted damage, and you're going to need something like 4th times the charm, envious assassin, or rewind rounds in that 3rd column. Now for me, I'm looking at rewind rounds especially to go in that 3rd column, just for a number of reasons. It is generally a lot easier to activate and keep target lock going, and you're going to get that refunded ammo. But to be fair, envious assassin, they are essentially the same perks but work in a bit of a different way, and Envious Assassin is going to technically auto reload the magazine, and you can get up to 200% of an increase in magazine size, so you've got potential to get target lock times 5 going for a lot longer, especially if you pair it with Envious Assassin. But in terms of what I'm using the machine gun for, I think rewind round is potentially the way to go with target lock. Obviously both of them perks, rewind rounds and Envious Assassin, can work extremely well with killing tally, which we've already gone through already. And finally you've also got surrounded. Now surrounded is going through a little bit of a renaissance at the minute. Its massive 40% damage boost is not slept on like it used to be, but is absolutely doing bits, especially in certain encounters in dungeons and whatnot. And to be fair, you can probably put that in with any number of perks in that 3rd column. In terms of damage boosting perks, they're the main picks that you really want to look out for. High impact reserves and tap the trigger in that final column. As to why you'd want either of them on this machine gun, I don't really know, but I guess Bungie had to put some stuff for people to chase and delete, so there we go there. If you do get tap the trigger or high impact reserves, then they're instant deletes, to be fair, so it does make your job a lot easier. Now the final perk that has caught my interest is Onslaught. Now this thing is going to boost your rate of fire by up to 37% on final blows, and that stacks up to 3 times. It doesn't last very long, but it's going to allow you to blow your load pretty quickly with this adaptive frame machine gun with the Hammerhead, and you can essentially pair that with Rampage in that 3rd column to get what would be a maxed out breakneck, the OG breakneck for those who used to play Gambito and had that immense roll. Is it something that you really want on the Hammerhead? I'm not sure, to be honest. I think all in all, the rolls that I'm going to be looking for are going to be something with destabilising rounds, so destabilising rounds and maybe desperate measures. Rampage killing tally, that's also one that's obviously going to get everyone's fancy tickled. If you want something that's just going to be an absolute mad workhorse, especially in the final shape during the legendary campaign and for raiding, then I think Envious Assassin or rewind rounds along with killing tally or target lock. Obviously you've got the origin trait, which is going to essentially be a makeshift version of Demolitionist or Pugilist. Now that's going to obviously grant you 5% grenade energy on light subclass final blows or 5% melee energy on dark subclass final blows, and these weapons, these brave arsenal weapons, really do work well in a lot of builds, and the synergy with this origin trait and this weapon specifically, I think is going to come in really good with the new prismatic subclass. So if this wasn't on your radar and you're busy trying to hunt down a forbearance, then I think you should probably change your lookout on this one, because forbearance is already cracked, and I think that the Hammerhead potentially has got a lot more going for it than the forbearance. But there we go. I hope you enjoyed this God Roll breakdown of one of Destiny 2's most iconic black armory weapons, the Hammerhead. Your ongoing support is greatly appreciated. If you've been here before, consider subscribing or even joining our fellow members to get some bonus goodies to show off in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, which you can click right here.